up to the stage a dear friend of mine for, going on 20 years now, and colleague, Dr. Siri Shakti MD, and really one of, Dr. Siri Shakti helps us out of many binds and helps a lot of the yogis in our community who are like, oh, doctor, I don't know, and then they need a doctor, and we have a doctor here. So thank you for joining us. And just, you heard my questions. I think there's like two aspects, which is, if you don't have the means to be buying things and ordering things, what can you do with household items or just, things in that way? And then, of course, some of the other, things that you can order or do if you do have the means or the proximity to those things. Just test your mic, make sure it's working.
Hello?
Is that on?
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I was going to talk a little bit about...
Siri not available. You are not connected to the internet.
I think I'm sitting on my phone. Oh, no, that actually is not my phone. I don't know what that is.
That's funny.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to talk a little bit about testing, because that's probably, as an MD, the thing that I've been getting asked the most about, like, how do I get tested?
Yeah.
And basically right now, there's no real testing. Not for, like, the average person. If you're elderly, if you're inside a hospital already, or if you're hospital personnel, then you can easily kind of
or
get
politician.
tested. Well, we could name a few of those other categories. VIP status.
Yeah.
But otherwise, for the average person who's, under 65, if you come down with cold symptoms and you're worried that you might have this virus, you can contact the public health department. But so far, everybody we've called about, they've been like, no. You just have the flu.
They're like, you're fine.
You're fine.
Go home and don't leave.
Yeah. Just stay home.
Yeah.
And drink some chicken soup or whatever you want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the status on that, the testing situation.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm sure there's there's going to be so much good comedy about this, but I'm sure there's just there's a Portlandia sketch where they're like calling into 911 operators, and they're like, I have blood in my stool, I need an ambulance, and the operators are like, did you have a beet salad last night? And like every person who was calling in, so there's a little, that's the vibe.
It becomes that kind of situation.
People are neurotic, right?
Yeah. Somebody called me and they just gotten off a flight, and he's like, "Oh, I'm tired. Can I get the test?" And I was like, "No,
you have jet lag.
You're tired. You should go to sleep." So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
But there are people who have like real symptoms where I'm like, "No, that sounds like the virus. You're short of breath and you have a fever," and nope, no testing.
Okay.
And I do have an opinion that I think that as citizens, we have to start to politically get active about this, because they have drive-through clinics in Korea where you can get a 10-minute test and they'll send you a result on your iPhone. So it's we need to kind of ask and push for more diplomacy and more sharing across borders, because it's available. We just don't have it.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's just my little
opinion
about that.
Although, I mean, maybe, I don't know, my opinion is maybe it's best that people don't get the test.
Yes, there are two sides to every situation. So in terms of things I'm recommending that people do if they think they have it or are coming down with, a lot of things we talked about already. And there's already controversy about B vitamins and vitamin C out there on the TV with the CDC. They're saying that, you shouldn't recommend vitamin C, even though the COVID-19 is a coronavirus, so is the common cold, and it's well understood that vitamin C helps decrease the symptoms. It'll decrease the number of days that you're sick by 1 day, and it'll decrease your symptomology by 30%. So you want to take some vitamin C. You want to be taking it right now to prevent. And then you want to take a little bit more if you actually get sick. So I am recommending that. I'm also recommending that people take some magnesium for their adrenals. There's actually, maybe I'll give it to you. There's like a adrenal drink recipe. I don't know if you might have it, that has some potassium in it also to support the adrenals, because if you're stressed and you have a lot of cortisol circulating, then it's going to also affect your immune system response. So that's really helpful.
What's in that?
There's like a no salt, which is basically potassium, and then you use a little bit of actual sea salt.
Okay.
And then you use vitamin C crystals.
Oh, interesting. And just in water?
In water, and you just put it in like a liter bottle of water, and you can sip it. I feel like you feel it immediately. You can feel that something happening inside your adrenals.
So potassium, a little bit of salt,
and vitamin C, the crystals.
Vitamin C crystals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll get you the proportions.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's and then I know Dr. Ross was talking about magnesium baths.
Yeah.
Also very helpful.
Yeah.
There's a Gaia herb formula for nighttime for the adrenals that's also really helpful.
It's so good. It's the one, the black, that has like the black.
Dark,
the
colored
dark.
capsules.
Yeah.
I find that it really helps with sleep without any sort of like hangover feeling. It says to take 2. You could just take 1. And nowadays, with all the stress people are under, I'm telling people to take it even during the day, because it has just like not high doses of herbs, but somehow the synergy of the different herbs and adaptogens that are in there are really helpful for feeling more relaxed. The other thing that people that I'm saying that people should take is olive leaf extract. It's just very antiviral, also good for mycoplasma. There's one called Olive that I particularly like because I think the potency is very good. I also really like Gaia Herbs has one that's good as well. I have not found it to be as potent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the first one? The brand's called?
That one's called Ceravita is the name of the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a really good one. Another good thing for stress that they have, Ceravita has a product called Elevate, which is an amino acid blend. And it includes lysine. Lysine's very antiviral as well.
Lysine's very antiviral.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could
I've
take
seen
lysine
that
by
Elevate.
itself.
Yeah.
You could take the lysine by itself. The Elevate is also very good, like if you're having trouble sleeping or if you're feeling stressed or you've been meditating a lot. Sometimes they say that you use a lot of amino acids if you meditate a lot.
Interesting. The medical medium is also saying to do these like zinc gargles.
Zinc gargles.
Which I thought
like
was
that
an
idea.
Interesting idea. Yeah. I've never seen him say it, but he has a free zine that he's, or like ebook that he's put out for viruses that it's like these zinc gargles. And I thought that would be a good idea. I haven't found my zinc in my house, but I have a liquid zinc,
Yeah.
But that seems to be, it's not that expensive. And I think
Right.
that it's so antiviral.
Yeah, well, zinc. They came out with the like over the counter at CVS, Cold Ease with a Z in it, lozenges, and Zicam has a bunch of different products that are all zinc based for colds and flu, and I'm always surprised how few people know about them.
I know.
Yeah, and it's like they have a nasal spray, and I think they have a throat spray. So it's kind of the same concept, but I'm sure that what he's coming up with is probably maybe a little bit more of a potent way to get the zinc in.
Yeah, he says that, he's kind of recommending it for some emergency
symptomatic situation. Yeah. The zinc really helps. It kind of shuts things down. Yeah. Elderberry syrup is another one. Sambuca is a good brand. You can take that. I would take it at the first sign of symptoms, I probably hold on to that. I think the olive leaf you could take every day, zinc you could take every day. You might be able to, handle a dose of lysine. You might up the lysine if you became symptomatic. But the elderberry syrup I would use when you get sick. And the same thing I would say is true of if you're going to add oregano oil. I would use it when you get sick, because it can be just so potent.
And it's nasty, but
Well, never mind. Yeah, it's not yummy.
it's so nasty.
Yeah, there's one that we have in our office called ADP that we like. And the woman who I work with is always like, you have to suck on the lozenge. And I'm like, no, this is
It's
disgusting.
so gross.
But
But it works. It does work.
well, you can feel it like burning your throat. You figure it's killing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something's got to be going down.
Exactly.
The other thing I've been prescribing a lot of Tamiflu. I mean, it's just really based on they have a bunch of medicines that they're doing tests on, and then sort of like rescue treatment, and then they're kind of gotten to a point where they're like, well, maybe these things actually work. So Tamiflu is an antiviral that was created by, I think, a company owned by Rumsfeld, but
Yeah.
it actually works.
Yeah,
And it kills the flu. But it does work. It has worked in some cases when people are sort of like on the ventilator with with this illness, to give them this IV version that starts with an R. It's in the same class. So I like that. They're also testing some HIV medicines. Kaletra is the name that they're using, and they're combining that with this anti-hepatitis virus medication, and they're using them together, and they're getting good results. So there's probably going to be like some studies that'll come to bear in the next couple weeks, hopefully, where they'll have some medications that they can use that we start to use here in America. But in other countries, they're just using them. They're just telling the doctors just to use whatever they can think of to save people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the vitamin C is really powerful because it really does help in the lungs. You know, what happens with this virus is eventually you get this cytokine storm. And there are a few things that, I know Dr. Ross mentioned the cytokine storm. So there are a few things that can stop that. One is Plaquenil, which is a prescription medication that they are using Plaquenil for this to stop the cytokines. Because when the cytokines start to get released, they attack the lungs, you start to get the fluid in the lungs. And that's like the next phase of things. Like, it's fine to get a fever and a sore throat. We can all deal with that. But the problem is when it goes to the lungs.
The lungs, yeah.
So the Plaquenil works for that. So does ozone. So ozone therapy. You can do ozonated water, ozonated oil. You can get IV ozone where they ozonate your blood. That's a little bit more expensive. But if you can get your hand on some ozone or have a friend who has an ozone machine, it's basically like a free treatment. It's just creating that molecule, that oxygen molecule.
And you can ozonate your water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that at home. Like you can get a hold of something.
If you have a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just basically hook up the hose. You need an oxygen tank, the ozone machine, and then a bottle. And it just kind of has to have enough stoppage, to kind of keep the gas from leaking out. And then the gas will go right into the water and it'll ozonate the water.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they have ozonated olive oil. That company, Premier Research, used to have an ozonated cream that you could use on your face.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they have amazing products, Premier Research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's an ozonated olive oil. I mean, you could just like put it in your mouth. It doesn't taste great, but it would act as like a treatment. It would give you the same ozone molecule that helps stop that cytokine storm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything like kind of household stuff that hasn't been said that might be, helpful for people to be thinking about?
I think that, the thing about this virus that's interesting is that, the minute somebody gets a fever, if you just separate them from other people, it keeps it from spreading. So the thing in China that seems like so cold is that they just would take the person just away, so that would stop the spreading of the virus. So if, in terms of contagion in your own household, if you live with other people, self-isolation actually really does work.
Yeah.
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 Nobody likes it. But.
I was saying to Dick now that people were talking about, isolating from each other in the quarantine.
Yes.
And I was like, it sounds like this is getting like a little out of control.
It's a little sad.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that comes to mind actually is fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, intermittent fasting or water fasting or dry fasting. When you fast, you really activate your immune system. So whether in yoga, we talk about get up at 4 a.m., stop eating by 4 p.m. So you could do something like that. A lot of people who are into intermittent fasting, they start eating like at 12 in the afternoon or something, and then finish around 8 p.m. But just kind of restricting the hours of the day that you eat actually will activate your immune system to be more effective.
It'll also extend the amount of, Armageddon rations you have come. It won't help you with the toilet paper, but maybe.
Well, dry fasting, I don't know. It depends on how your body operates on that level. But yeah.
It will extend your stores.
Exactly. You're just watching Netflix, so just, don't eat.
Hey, easier said than done.
I know. Trust me, I've been eating my rations.
I know. I love how everyone's like complaining because they go through like the good rations first, and then you're like left with like the potato.
You're like, all the healthy food. All my carbs are eaten.
Exactly. Okay, well, this is very helpful. And also, I find like the way you talk about some of the allopathic stuff is also really helpful for me personally, because it's important. I think it's really important to see things from multiple perspectives. So,
yeah.
Any questions? Yeah.
For the things that you were mentioning, are these things that we can get at like Whole Foods, or is it something like, what about Amazon? Like how easily is it?
I would say the Gaia herbs, the Ceravita products, you might be able to find some ozonated oils available. I don't know.
Those would probably be a little harder, but everything else you said is very easily accessible.
Amazon. Ceravita has their own website. Gaia is definitely at Whole Foods. And I don't know.
And some of the stuff you can get at CVS that she mentioned.
Yeah. Like all the Zicam, Cold Ease, those things are there. And then obviously vitamin C and magnesium, you can get those right across the street at CVS.
What do you think of the
Lipospheric vitamin C?
Yeah, how do you think that do you think it improves it, or any?
I have not had any sort of like special experience with lipospheric vitamin C. I know that the medical medium highly recommends it, and so do a few other people who I highly respect. So when I talk to people about vitamin C, I always include that if you can afford the special lipospheric vitamin C, get it. If it's too expensive, you can get the crystals or something less expensive. Yeah.
I kind of like the less expensive vitamin C. Something about the like old school, like tear your stomach up vitamin C. It's
you can
like,
feel it going down.
It's like, makes you feel like you're doing something,
Like it's working.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it's like, I don't even care if you have the means. I'm offended by how expensive it is. It pisses me off. Yeah. But it is good. It is good.
I mean, and there's a lipospheric glutathione, the same thing.
Yeah, that lipospheric glutathione.
Glutathione is actually really great for your immune system also.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and when I do vitamin shots, for immune system, I often include some glutathione, because I always feel like the liver is like the hidden player in the game.
Always. Yeah.
So if you can get your liver to be a little bit happier, feel more supported, then basically everything else works better. So
Yeah.
if you're that's the problem with eating all these rations, because
Yeah.
you're clogging up your liver, and then your immune system is not going to be as happy.
Yeah, especially with like frozen foods and stuff, and
Or M&Ms.
Rations.
Just
We're
the
gonna get
rations.
through this.
I'm just trying to live
Just the
here.
necessities. Okay, thank you so much, Siri
Okay.
Shakti. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.